So, all right, let's go ahead and get right on into TWIG. Welcome to TWIG, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show that tackles everything from the mangaka of One Piece trying to find the One Piece to the State of Unreal recap with some video games in between. If you're listening on the podcast version of the show that still does not exist, and I think we're on episode 11, be sure to give us a good review. Click that like button if you're over on YouTube where the real podcast lives, or come and listen live on Twitch every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch. Folks, as always, we're going to be starting this one with our question. We always start with, what have you been watching, playing, and reading? And I'm going to let our level 2 special guest today answer that question for us first.
Hey everybody, my name is Sneaky, or Mike. Let's see, oh man, what have I been watching? Okay, so we're going to talk about this later, so I'm just going to bring up the fact that I watched it. We will talk about this later, but I did watch the first episode of The Three-Body Problem on Netflix. So we will chit-chat about that later.
Very curious.
And then other than that, I watched a little bit of March Madness basketball, just because it's about the only basketball I'll watch, because it's pretty exciting. Other than that, I've been playing a lot of Helldivers 2 with my son, and it has been an absolute blast. I like that, I have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, and it's awesome to reach the point where we can kind of start sharing games now. So it's been a lot of fun getting to play with him. And then reading, I'm still making my way very slowly because it's kind of like my back burner book, but the Wax and Wayne series by Brandon Sanderson. And I finished The Iron Flame, and then I just started, because I'm trying to catch up on our book club book, but I just started In the Lives of Puppets.
Nice.
And I'm about 160 pages in, and I had to force myself to put it away last night so I could go to bed. I reached a point where I just had to keep going with the story, and I was like, nope, gotta put it down. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that book so far for the first good chunk that I'm into it.
Love it. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it, and always good promo for the book club. Folks, if you're not in the Checkpoint Book Club, we are actually just picking our new book for April right now. So if you hang out on the Discord, you can go vote for that. Same for Button Bash Brigade for our video game club. So we got all that going on. I'm seeing some things in the chat already. Perry also wants to talk about the first episode of The Three-Body Problem, which he enjoyed. Mochi Bean is getting back into Genshin Impact after some time. Perry is also reading Codependent No More, and then nothing much else than free run other than that. Deacon Shannon has been editing video, so watching that video that they've been editing. And Tracker just started The Resident, playing my guitar and Carcassonne and Spades on BGA. Very nice. I have officially finished Freerun, and I'm so sad that it's over, and I'm also so sad for all the people that seemingly did not enjoy it. I didn't include it as a news story, but apparently the entire nation of Japan, according to one of those random Facebook sites that I follow, Japan just hasn't liked any of the anime this season, including Freerun, which makes me so sad. Freerun is seriously one of my favorite anime of all time. I try so hard not to hype it up because I don't want to overhype it and people feel like they can't enjoy it because they're expecting the greatest thing of all time. But, I finished it now. I finished the first season and I cannot wait until season 2. I'm going to be reading through the manga and I'm going to be thinking about it 24/7. I could write an entire series of nerdy sermons on it. It's so good. I've also been playing Unicorn Overlord. I'm about 35 hours deep into that one, which is quite a lot for me. I normally don't play through games that are quite that long, aside from the big Nintendo ones that come out, or a Baldur's Gate 3 or something like that. But super enjoying it. I think it's really pleasant. It is a very vanilla story, but the crunch of the gameplay is so good. I'm so into it. I haven't yet gotten to the point that I've gotten frustrated whenever I lose, but instead I'm just excited to get to another run. So all in all, if you're a Fire Emblem fan, I think the Unicorn Overlord is absolutely for you. I think if you're a Tactics Ogre fan, I don't know enough about you to say that it's good or not, because I have never played those games, but I do know that some people do not like Unicorn Overlord, and I'm particularly enjoying it, and I also particularly enjoy Fire Emblem. I've also just finished up a game called We Know the Devil, which is a game about church camp trauma. It's a visual novel, very short, incredibly bingeable, very much not a game made for me. I felt like I was looking in from the outside and seeing someone's lived experience that I will never experience. And if you want to know more about that, then you can play through that game. And then I just started one called Paper Lily today. So All good stuff there. And I just finished reading Legends and Lattes, and now I've already started on their next one about bookshops. So I'm so into that little fantasy franchise. It is so nice and pleasant and such a light and easy read that it's been a wonderful little like sipping coffee in the morning and not ready for my brain to start yet book. Super enjoying that. And then I don't normally do this, but a listen, if you haven't checked it out on the Discord that I posted earlier, absolutely fascinating episode of a podcast has just come out. If you've not been listening to My Perfect Console, it is a fantastic podcast series in which Simon Parkins sits down with just anyone and everyone, really. It's amazed me the range of guests that he's been able to get. But you put together a console of your 5 perfect games, and he does an interview while talking through the story of those games and why they picked them. It's a great podcast. The latest one was the infamous anti-video game lawyer Jack Thompson. Like, would never have expected Jack Thompson to show up on this podcast, first of all, and to be so incredibly passive. It's a great listen. He's like still very much like convinced that video games are bad and that mature video games are bad, but there's such an interesting like political intrigue from his like angle of being a lawyer in this time and also being very involved with the law side of things and the politics side of things. It's so good. If you don't want to listen to the whole podcast, you don't have to, but listen to that episode if you care about video games, because mind-blowing. So incredibly interesting. Yes. So I don't know if that name stands out for you or not, Sneaky, but that was like a name that as soon as I saw it, I was like, this cannot be who I think it is.
It doesn't, but I will definitely be checking it out for sure.
Yeah. If you start to do any digging on some of the like video game Satanic Panic around like GTA, so it'd be like post Mortal Kombat, but the GTA era of it, like he was very well known and he was very much scapegoated in a way. I'm not like on his side, but after this podcast, it was interesting hearing just how much of it was probably like he was an easy target for gamers. Some of his points are good, some of them real bad. Lemmy says, finally got both Undertale and Portal because of the Steam spring sale. Undertale music is so good. It's so good. I still listen to that soundtrack almost every day. It really is one of the best. And Maleficent says, I'm on Queen of Shadows now, book 4 of Throne of Glass series. Air of Fire was so good, and starting on Mashley Muscles and Might. Very nice. Good stuff. Well, that was a lot that we could go through, and I feel like we'll keep on getting those comments. So feel free to drop them if you got them, other things you're watching, playing, and reading. But we're going to get into some of our news stories for tonight. So first up, take it away, Sneaky.
All right. Well, first up, we got Dragon Ball Z. And Saudi Arabia is set to become the home of the world's first theme park dedicated entirely to the Dragon Ball universe, a project that aims to bring the adventures of Goku and his companions to life. Spearheaded by the Qiddiya Investment Company, the theme park will cover over 500,000 square meters and will feature 7 themed lands, each based on different Dragon Balls, offering over 30 themed rides, major attractions, hotels, and restaurants. Among the attractions, visitors can look forward to the iconic Dragon Ball landmarks like Kami House, Capsule Corporation, and Beerus Planet, with concept art showcasing a 70-meter high, for us Americans, that's 250 feet, Shenron roller coaster as a highlight. This announcement aligns with the 40th anniversary of the Dragon Ball manga and follows the recent passing of its revered creator Akira Toriyama, marking a significant continuation of the Dragon Ball legacy into a new immersive realm. While an opening date for the park has not been disclosed, construction is anticipated to start shortly, promising a unique experience for fans of the globally beloved series. So I think this is like super cool. It's gosh, you ever had something where you're just kind of like, this is so cool, but why did they put it there? Because like, you know, obviously Saudi Arabia does not have a great track record with human rights, especially surrounding women and the LGBTQ community. And so it's like, oh, why there? Why would you put something so cool there? But I hope it turns out, for the people who get to enjoy it, I really, really hope that it turns out to be a super cool experience. I was actually watching, because I was so curious to see like if they've started working on it, and they have kind of, but there were some like update videos on the Qiddiya project itself and the way it looks and all of the art showing what is going to be. Oh my goodness, this place looks pretty amazing if this is exactly how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's going to be incredible. I'm obviously a major Dragon Ball fan. I always have been a fan of the series, and so I'm super curious about if they'll maybe do another one somewhere else. Like you said, anywhere else really would be nice. It surprises me that this happens to be. I don't really understand how like licensing rights works whenever it comes to theme parks. We had Carowinds and the North Carolina South Carolina border, and that was randomly a Paramount Productions thing. So like I don't know why. I don't know why Paramount was on the border of North and South Carolina. No clue what that had to do with anything, but there was just like a Nickelodeon theme park randomly in Carowinds. So I don't know how the licensing stuff works, but I'm so incredibly in awe of all of the work that has been done in the like draw ups and the design for this, and I want to be there so bad. It's incredibly cool. I imagine the roller coasters are going to be incredible. Hopefully, here's my real dream. Whenever this is completed in like, however long it takes to build this theme park, however many years it takes, I want VR to get to the point that I don't have to go to Saudi Arabia to experience them in my headset. That's what I want to happen, so that I can actually at least ride these rides in a way that feels somewhat atmospheric and immersive without having to go to some place that I don't necessarily want to go. But intriguing.
Right, and it's cool too, because like apparently it is going to boast the fastest roller coaster in the world in this park.
Yeah.
So like as a roller coaster fan, I want to ride this. It's like, okay, how can I do this?
Desperately. And it also really cements to me just that Dragon Ball is in a league of its own from a lot of different anime. Like, a lot of times people talk about the big three and like the icon that is the anime boom of the 2000s, but it's like, nobody compares. Nobody can compare to DBZ getting its own entire like theme park and all of the impressive stuff that go on behind the scenes with their just constant work in the video game field and all sorts of things. So it shows that Dragon Ball is a cut above and makes me glad to be a fan. And I'm very curious to see where this one continues to go. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as things come to a completion of the build there. We are going to get into some more anime stuff. Speaking of the big three, One Piece, Eiichiro Oda, the creator of the iconic manga One Piece, has announced he will be taking a 3-week hiatus. Isn't it amazing that this made the news? This break comes in the wake of the passing of Akira Toriyama, the legendary creator of Dragon Ball, and is intended for Oda to grieve, conduct some scheduled maintenance on his health, and contemplate the essence of his long-running series' central mystery, what the One Piece treasure actually is. Oda reassured fans through an official X or Twitter post that this break is not due to any health concerns, but is rather a planned period of rest and reflection. He humorously noted that part of the break will be dedicated to figuring out the nature of the One Piece's self, indicating the break is not only for health reasons, but also a creative pause. This isn't the first time that Oda's taken a break. In 2022, he was on a month-long hiatus after the Wano Country arc, and admits busy schedules related to One Piece Film Red and the live-action One Piece series on Netflix. Oda encouraged fans to explore Netflix's One Piece adaptations during this break, emphasizing the importance of rest and health for creative productivity. Always be selling. Always be selling. We need to go to Netflix. Go watch the Netflix series. Why not go ahead and do that? So, an interesting non-story, like it's a 3-week break, we really shouldn't care. This is something that only manga readers care about. Like I've never found anyone that is concerned about like an author taking a break or anything like that. But for some reason, we really care about getting those manga to us every single week. If we don't get a chapter next week, then we're going to lose our minds. So a bit of a pointless one, but an intriguing thing to me was that he's taking some of this time, I think it was tongue-in-cheek, but also not, to figure out what the One Piece is, which is hilarious. So I don't know how much you know about the franchise, Sneaky, but the whole point is finding the One Piece, and even Oda doesn't know what it is.
Right? Like when your author doesn't even know what the central thing of your central story is, like,
right?
That's kind of funny.
On the polar opposite, you're reading Sanderson right now, who probably knows what the treasure is going to be 10 books down the line that he hasn't even thought of yet.
Right.
He's still solving the mysteries for the book that he's going to write in 5 years. That's where he's
no kidding.
So
no kidding.
Fascinating stuff. Let us know if you're terribly upset with Oda taking a break, or if you're more upset that maybe the ending of One Piece may be seriously coming to fruition at this point. At long last, maybe we'll get to see what the One Piece is. But we're going to get into a different kind of fruit, not the devil fruit, but the tech kind. Take it away.
All right, let's talk about Apple. The U.S. Department of Justice has filed an antitrust lawsuit against Apple, accusing the tech giant of maintaining an illegal monopoly in the smartphone market to the detriment of developers and consumers. Highlighted issues included Apple's 30% App Store fee and its resistance to adopting the Rich Communication Services standard, seen as a way to limit competition. Apple defends its practices, emphasizing its commitment to innovation, privacy, and seamless integration of its products. This lawsuit is part of a larger trend of antitrust scrutiny on major tech companies, with Apple previously avoiding the legal challenges that have confronted its peers like Amazon, Google, and Meta. This case brings Apple's competitive practices and their impact on the market and innovation into the spotlight, continuing the debate over the balance between innovation and market control in the tech industry. Okay, I have to nerd out about this for a second.
Nerd out.
Because this is the history / government nerd in me busting out. So this whole thing with Apple is actually really fascinating because it goes back to a case that happened in the 1990s. So if you hop in the Wayback Machine and we go back to the 1990s when Sneaky had a mullet and teenage acne, there's a really famous case of the United States versus Microsoft. I almost a spit take. Ooh, so close.
You almost got me. I was picturing Stranger Things Sneaky. It happened.
Microsoft literally got busted for the exact same thing. So what's really interesting is, in a nutshell, this case surrounding Apple has everything to do with the Microsoft case back in the 1990s. And in fact, if you read the brief the DOJ put out about Apple, they actually reference this and flat out call it out and say, if Microsoft or if United States versus Microsoft had not happened, Apple would not be where it is. So it's really interesting. So back in the 1990s, so for the younger people in the chat, let grandpa spill some stuff here. The internet was like not in everybody's home in the 1990s. Like it just started to become part of home culture. And so Microsoft actually got really worried about competitors and busting in on this market. Like Microsoft had the foresight to jump in on this really quickly. But one of the big competitors was a company called Netscape. And Microsoft tried everything. Like they played nice, they didn't play nice, but they tried to convince Netscape to not make a internet browser for Windows 95. And Netscape was like, yeah, no, like we're going to do this. And so as a result of that, Microsoft gave away Internet Explorer for free on Windows to basically prevent anybody else, but more specifically Netscape, from essentially competition. Now, this is incredibly illegal under the Sherman Antitrust Act. And so the DOJ in the 90s sued Microsoft. They actually tried to break Microsoft into two companies, but it didn't happen. So they basically buried Microsoft under a bunch of rules to weaken it. And so this is important because to understand what's happening with Apple today is they're accusing Apple of basically the exact same thing. And in fact, there are 4 internal emails, even from one from the late founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, and several from Tim Cook about how Apple is basically trying to manipulate things to where it's making it difficult to break away from Apple products. So like, for example, back in the heyday when iPods were really big, the only place you could really get iTunes was on a Mac. And eventually Apple was forced to create a Windows version of iTunes. But if you put basically the Mac version of iTunes and the Windows version of iTunes next to each other, they are a night and day difference.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
Like the Windows one is horrid.
As a Windows user, I can affirm it's so bad.
Yeah. So that's why I said this is really fascinating to kind of see. Like when I taught history, I used to tell my students, history doesn't repeat, but it sure likes to rhyme. And this is just one of those moments where it's kind of like, on the back of what happened to Microsoft in the 90s, we are now seeing Apple essentially being in the same position. So it will be very interesting to see what happens to Apple after this, and how things will play out. Like, will it be similar to Microsoft where they're just going to get kind of slapped down and they're going to, and they're going to have to make some changes to things, which I think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to end up being anything massive, but I think it will be something that is going to, cause the company to have to do a little bit of thinking.
Yeah. At the very least, as a proud Android user, maybe it will make Apple users calm down just a little bit in my comments section and stop talking about it. The one that was the most damning, in my opinion, whenever I was looking through it, was the accusation. I don't think it's been proven. So allegedly, Apple, whenever you receive a picture from Android, they lower the quality to make you think that Android takes worse pictures. And it's still alleged, but I've always had people tell me, like, why does Android take such garbage video? And I'm like, it doesn't. My video looks fantastic. And they're like, nah, it's Apple. You need to get yourself an Apple. And I'm telling you, I know that Android bros can also be annoying. And so I try really hard not to be annoying, but it'll be very interesting to see how this goes and to see where the conversation leads in the like zeitgeist of the populace. Like, we're not going to be involved in the big wig conversations. We might cover some of them on Twig, but like, what's it going to change in our actual day-to-day lives and conversations and the experience of consumer with brand? Because the brands are going to play, and how do we get to play in that playground as well? It'll be super fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perry liked your line. I also liked that line. I think that's very good. And Maleficent says, they do this in many areas. My husband has to have an Apple because that is what everyone uses at work, but he prefers Android. Yeah. I got rid of my Apple pretty much as soon as I could. I enjoyed the MacBook Air. I'm not going to lie and say that it wasn't a good computer. It did what it needed to do, but it got to the point where I was like, I can't play any games that I want to play, and I'm a gamer. And I love being a PC gamer. And so it was like I kept hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And I think that's a little bit better now, but it was so annoying. And so I that was the main reason for my ditch, and I'm much happier on the other end. And certainly has nothing to do with emulators at all, so don't even ask. All right, next up, we're going to talk about the International Game Developers Association, which has voiced its deep concern over the rising harassment of historically marginalized game developers and those working on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI initiatives. The statement was released amidst the Game Developers Conference, the GDC, in San Francisco, highlighting the unwelcome resurgence of harassment reminiscent of the Gamergate period. The IGDA particularly noted the harassment directed at Sweet Baby Inc., a studio focused on creating empathetic stories and promoting industry diversity, which has faced targeted attacks online. Stressing that harassment has no place in the gaming industry, the IGDA called for a safe, welcoming, and equitable environment. The association condemned the misogyny, bigotry, and intolerance that have damaged the gaming community and urged industry leaders to take a strong stand against harassment and support victims. This call to action includes implementing comprehensive training programs on diversity, inclusion, and conflict resolution. The IGDA remains committed to supporting game developers worldwide, advocating for fulfilling and sustainable careers within a harassment-free industry. So this is good. As Perry said, woo woo, this is a good situation. We love to see the IGDA stepping up. This is not a name that you often see showing up in kind of the news. I think they kind of play a lot more of the like back end of things. So if they feel the need to really step up and say something at GDC, then you know that it was something very important. We're not going to go through like a full recap of the entire Sweet Baby Inc. situation. I've gone back and forth about really tackling that on Twig or not, because it is a pretty heated topic, and I think that it gets out of hand really quickly with people that hear a lot of things that aren't true. And so instead, as an act of doing no harm, and in this space, we believe firmly that we are committed to doing as little harm as possible or ending harm where we see it, I fully support and love this commitment towards support and inclusion and equity in the workspace. And I think we should all be able to get behind that.
100%. Like this was awesome to see them calling this out and just, calling it for what it is, which I deeply appreciate. Like, so this was cool.
It is good stuff. It is good stuff. And I want to see more of it. I know that GDC was particularly heated this year just because of all the layoffs in the wake of all this. And, there's a lot that could be said around that and around the conversation going on there, but this is one of the better bits of the cream that have risen to the top, and I'm glad to see it. So do let us know your thoughts if you have any thoughts here on this. We're going to move into the presentation on the state of Unreal.
All right, so the state of Unreal. So Unreal had just a big, at GDC, they had just a big kind of talk about the Unreal Engine and what's coming up for it. And so here's some of the highlights. Probably the highlight that got me like so jazzed. I've watched this trailer way too many times to count. But Marvel 1943, The Rise of Hydra announcement. Amy Henning and Skydance Media kicked off the event by revealing Marvel 1943, Rise of Hydra. This game is being developed with Epic's advanced technologies, including the meta-human animator, aiming to deliver highly realistic facial animations. And oh, good golly, if that trailer is showing any possibility of what's about to come out of this thing, like, oh my goodness. Super cool. Other things that came out, the integration of MetaHuman to UEFN. So Epic announced the addition of the MetaHuman animator and the MetaHuman creator to Unreal Engine for Fortnite. This integration, set for the end of April, allows creators to develop photorealistic characters and animations directly in the UEFN using footage from iPhones or head-mounted cameras. Fortnite season developed on the UEFN. By the end of 2025, Epic plans to release the first Fortnite season entirely created using this technology. This announcement is part of Epic's broader roadmap for the UEFN, which also includes adding new creator tools and the highly anticipated first-person camera setting within this year. Another announcement was the new assets for Fortnite creators, that Epic is enhancing the Fortnite creator economy by introducing elements from Rocket Racing, Fall Guys, and Lego into the mix. These new assets aim to fuel creativity and enable the design of distinctive experiences within the Fortnite universe. I think this is really cool. Looking at what people have done in Fortnite, and this is coming from someone who has like no artistic, bone in his body whatsoever. So I'm impressed by a lot of things, but the things that people have created in Fortnite are pretty amazing. And I absolutely love that Epic and Unreal are literally handing this to people and be like, go have fun with this. Show us what you can do. Like, the ability to just release people's creativity is like, I'm pretty excited about this, about to see what people are going to do with it. A few more things that came out. The Epic Game Store will go mobile following new European Union legislation, Digital Markets Act. Epic shared its plan to launch the Epic Game Store on mobile platforms, positioning it as the first game-focused multi-platform store. The EGS on mobile will offer a fair 88 to 12% revenue share to developers consistent with its PC and Mac OS counterparts. Additionally, Fortnite is set to return to mobile devices in the EU. They also, breaking away from Fortnite, looked at Dune. So they did a deep dive into Dune Awakening. Funcom provided an in-depth look into Dune Awakening, showcasing how the upcoming open world game benefits from Unreal 5's capability. Super, super gorgeous. They also highlighted the use of the Unreal Engine in the film industry, particularly in the pre-production of Dune Part 2. And then lastly, the Unreal Engine itself, which apparently, according to some reports I read, was like the highlight of this whole entire presentation. Just people just lost their minds over all this. But the Unreal Engine 5.4 update. Epic unveiled the Unreal Engine 5.4 Preview 1 with a full release expected in late April. This update focuses on enhancing animation capabilities, including motion matching technology, which has already been utilized in Fortnite since Chapter 5. Lots of just super cool things. And again, I am so interested to see where this is all going to go. Like, how far is this going to push video games in particular, but any source of media? And again, I'm just super interested to see what creators are going to be doing with all of this, and how it will impact games like Fortnite and the creator community there.
Yeah, growing up, there was this thing called the Digital Blue. And I remember my buddy had it, and it was a video camera. But what was so cool about it was that it had everything that you needed within the camera. And so instead of like having to go learn how to use iMovie or any other like video editing program on your computer, it had all the assets and all the things within the downloadable software that came with the camera. And so you were able to create really robust user-generated content via the Digital Blue camera system. And I think a lot about what Epic is doing. And there's such a troublesome company because they do things that make me so mad, and then they do things that impress
Right.
me so much, like
Right.
letting so much of the reins loose for people that want to create. Like there are game engines out there that are free. There are game engines out there that people are using that they're offering into upcoming developers, but that's not what this is. This is an editor. The purpose of this is for, I mean, for lack of a better term, the layman. This is for the just, normal gamer to be able to be creative within the world in a way that is interesting and intriguing, and also utilizes all of the assets from all of the things that they keep accruing. So it's so fascinating. I'm so curious about it. Perry dropped this in for our To the Discord segment, and I was like, we're going to cover all of it. We're not just going to cover one of them, because there's so much that they announced and so much that they did. And it was a very big presentation. And Epic really does know how to drop all of the news and all of the excitement all at once. And the Epic Game Store going mobile is no small feat either. This is something that has been really since TWIG started. We've been really talking about this continuing developing story of like, more and more things are coming out on the mobile end of things, and now we're going to be seeing a launcher on our phones. Like that's pretty wild. That's a pretty big deal. We've always, I've always hoped that Steam would do that, and especially with the Steam Deck, I was like, maybe this is a turnaround, or at the very least, on certain devices, maybe we'll be able to get it on Android or something like that. And we're still not there yet, but Epic is doing it. So baffling. I'm so intrigued to see what actually comes of this, what people are able to do with it, and what we continue to see with UE5 being more and more implemented into game development. With that, we're going to get into our final story, and the most random one to me. The Sims, EA's iconic life simulation video game series, is being transformed into a movie with Kate Herron, known for her work on Loki and Sex Education, set to direct and co-write the screenplay. The film project will also involve Margot Robbie's production company Lucky Chap, along with Roy Lee, Mira Yoon of Vertigo Entertainment, and Electronic Arts. While specific details about the film's plot or how it will adapt the game's unique sandbox elements are currently under wraps, the collaboration signals an ambitious attempt to bring the digital world of The Sims to the cinematic realm. The Sims series, a brainchild of game designer Will Wright and a successor to the pioneering SimCity, has been a major part of the gaming landscape since its debut in 2000, selling over 200 million copies worldwide. This movie project, emerging after a previously attempted adaptation by Fox stalled, marks a renewed effort to capture the creativity and complexity of the Sims experience on the big screen. This is random as can be, and I'm all the way here for it. I think it's so hilarious. I love that they're trying. I've seen a lot of takes on it online. I do think that Loki makes me think some things about what they could do with this, and like the multiversal kind of aspect of the storytelling is like, interesting. Where are they going to go with The Sims? Anybody that tells me that Sims doesn't have lore, by the way, needs to go look up Matt Pat's videos on The Sims, because you will find it. And then I saw one TikTok out there that said it needs to be a unsuspecting, like A24 style horror, where it's like the first half of the film is completely picture perfect and totally normal. And then like halfway through, you see like this super cinematic scene of like Margot Robbie as the wife, or whoever portrays the wife character, like getting into the pool, and then she starts to swim around and the ladder is not there. And then like pan away to the husband who's like in a windowless room and trapped away. And it's so good. It's like, I could see them doing that. It'd be the craziest film of the year, and they probably won't, but I could see it. I can picture it in my mind's eye, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this one's baffling. Any thoughts on this one, Sneaky?
To quote the amazing Jeff Goldblum, you were so preoccupied wondering if you could,
Yes.
you didn't stop to think if you should.
Absolutely.
Like, I will agree with Limmy. It sounds really intriguing, but what are they going to do with it? And your A24 take would probably be the only way that's going to get me to go see it. So I am 100% on board with that. So let's figure out how to make that happen.
I love it. I will be seeing it no matter what, because I have to. I have to see a movie on The Sims. It's like an iconic part of my childhood. I do think that it is a wise company to or a license to pursue, because it's pretty ubiquitous. I feel like even people that don't know video games, they know about The Sims. Like they maybe couldn't pick out like gameplay of it, but they've heard the name enough. And so the ubiquity of the thing is going to be what really sells it. And I'm fascinated. Yeah. A Lego movie style could be fun. It definitely could be. And especially since that's kind of what I was mentioning with Loki. Like I feel like there's an element of that with Loki and the kind of fourth wall breakingness of it all that could be fun. And then Sex Education is just hilarious. If you've never watched that show, it's a great Netflix show. It's very adult, but very good. And so it should be great. This seems like a trusted director, an actress that I trust, and their work that they do is good. I don't know anything from Lucky Chap, but maybe that's, this will be the start of a great new production company out there. Do let us know your thoughts on this. If you have any thoughts about any of these news stories, particularly The Sims, of course, I want to know all of the thoughts. Tell me your pitches that you would give to Margot Robbie about whatever Sims movie you would like to see. But with that, we're going to get into everybody's favorite segment of the show, Cryptic Critiques. That's right. It's time for Cryptic Critiques. Only tonight we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to flip the game on its head. So for those of you that have never heard of Cryptic Critiques, or this is your first time joining us for, of course, an ad break starts right then, but I'm sorry, I got to keep going. I can't take a minute and a half pause. For those of you that have not been around for a Twig before, the way that Cryptic Critiques works is that we are going to be hearing 1-star reviews from an arguably 5-star game. We're going to hear 3 of them, and then by the time we get to our third, typically the guest is going to try and pick what that game will be, but Sneaky messaged me not too long ago and said, how about if we flip it around and have you guess? So I'm going to try to guess based off of our 3 prompts for tonight, except I think there is an added element of gameplay if you decided to go with it on the D6, but I'll let Sneaky explain any further.
All right. So I asked Nate, I'm like, you always ask the guests, and the guests never ask you. And I don't know if we've ever had Nate guess a game on Twig. So or a critique on here. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of play a little reverse Uno here. So I did roll the D6 earlier, and so I have the game. Okay, here's your first clue.
All right. And folks in the chat, do not guess until I get to my solid guess.
All right, but you can't feel free. Let me know if you figured out which clue you figured it out on. So, first clue.
Okay.
Overflowing with junior high school drama, kid, community theater, self-indulgent energy.
I've already got an idea. I feel like I've already got an idea. Just from that alone, I've got like, I know the genre that we're in is what I'll say.
Okay.
I'm thinking a coming of age film right away.
Okay. All right. Personally, I think you're going to get it on this one.
Okay.
So I really debated about whether to put this one second, but then I found another review that is going to probably totally give it away. So this is the second one. All right, your next one, The Stanley Parable, but lacking all the charm and sophistication.
Oh, interesting. The Stanley Parable, but lacking all of the charm and sophistication. No, that actually threw me off even more. I was thinking that it might be. So based off of the first prompt, I was going down the lane of like a Life is Strange type game, like a walking sim. And I think there is still an element of walking sims because that's arguably what a Stanley Parable is. But the conversation being had is completely different than the Stanley Parable. So I'm going with like the storytelling here. So yeah, I'm going to have that third clue. Going to have it.
Okay. All right. Here's the third one. The entire game in a nutshell. Trust her. Never trust a woman. Trust her. Never trust a woman. Trust her. Never trust a woman.
So interesting. I feel like I have no idea. This is so hard on this end of the game. I'm trying to think of all the games I've ever played at once, and this is why it's so hard for people to guess. Okay, so we've got a coming of age-esque experience. We've got Stanley Parable, but without any of the goodness. And then we've got the game being back and forth of trusting her and then never trusting a woman being the message that it was offering. I still want to go Life is Strange. It feels like for some reason that's so tempting because like Chloe, you kind of want to trust Chloe, but not trust Chloe. Trust Chloe, but not trust Chloe. But I just don't know if Stanley Parable is at all the connection. It's throwing me off so big time.
Oh man, I thought for sure that third one you would totally nail it.
No, and then I'm thinking about Stanley Parable Portal is a puzzle game. So it can't be Portal, but I'm also thinking about, the trust between the robots and the human. You've stumped me. I got no clue. I'm gonna go with my final guess of being. We've already done Life is Strange, so I don't think you would do that one again. But we've also done Portal, and so now I'm like, I don't know.
I can give you one more clue.
Okay, give me one more clue. How the
Here's one
turntables,
more.
indeed.
Okay, here's the next clue. The core premise of the game is there, but it brings it up over and over again. Metaphor after metaphor, paragraph after paragraph, the dialogue becomes a college-level philosophy paper, but in prose.
Why can't I think of it?
I
feel
mean,
like
that clue does not really help at all, but I'm just trying to think of like, what game have you played where there's a ton of dialogue?
Is it Doki Doki? Is it Doki Doki Literature Club?
It is not.
Oh man, I thought that might be it, especially with the back and forth, trust her, don't trust her. I was like, oh, it's the epiphany. That might have to be my final guess. Is Doki Doki? I'll have to accept the L. Anybody in the chat?
I would say, anybody in the chat got this or think they got it?
Help me, help my brain. See if you can come up with the answer. Man, I thought Doki Doki was a good one. And while you're thinking, I can keep thinking. So I'll keep racking my brain of trust her, don't trust her games. I'm like,
okay,
I'm about to go to backlog.
I'll give you another one here. It was mentioned in the Discord recently.
Oh no, we talk about so many games.
I mean, we do, but one in particular.
It was mentioned in Discord recently. L's in the chat, indeed. Oh man. I got nothing. You got nothing?
Okay.
Sounds like we got
I'll give it to you.
Chat either.
The game is Slay the Princess.
Oh, it's a very recent game. See, I was going so far back. Slay the Princess. It does dig the knife in deep. Lots of points over and over. Yeah. Man, that Stanley Parable threw me for a loop.
Really?
The Stanley Parable, the one that you thought was going to give it away, was the one that
I totally did. I totally thought that one was gonna be like, oh, you're gonna know it by this one.
Positively threw me away. Like maybe is Stanley Parable also Jonathan Sims? So maybe if it had been like it uses the same voice actor, and then that maybe would have given it away if I'd not like thought about that. But oof. Doki Doki is pretty much Slay the Princess in a different font though, so I feel like
it really is. So you were that
33%. I was in the same universe at the very least. That's good. Chats in the clap for Sneaky. Sneaky has bested me. Yeah, now I know how the guests feel, as Perry said. It is tough when it's like you're against the face of every game ever made.
Right.
But it's good stuff. Dag Dag is goodbye. It was the closest word I could come up with, Lizzie, for saying that it was like old hat or like old news, and that instead that Margot Robbie should make a Danganronpa movie. That's the joke, is that I want a Danganronpa movie and not a Sims movie. If I had to choose between the two, but yeah, Dag Dag is goodbye. For those of you that don't speak Simlish, I did have to Google it. I do not know it either. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, okay, that's what that meant. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yes, chats in the clap from Lemmy. Very good stuff. Love Cryptic Critiques. Even though I didn't get it, I still had fun, and that's the best part of the game, to say the least. So, Danganronpa live action, don't tempt me with a good time. I would watch every minute of it. With that, we're going to get into our next segment of the show. All right, it's time for To the Discord. This is where you have submitted news over on our Discord server. If you're not on our Discord server, you can hit !Discord in the Twitch chat or go find it over on discord.gg/checkpointchurch to join. We have a new section under our streaming section called Twig News. Every Monday, I put out a call for the latest news that you would like for us to cover. Things that you would like for us to have a conversation about or at least present on Twig. The first one is presented by Perspective, who's also in the chat right now. YouTube. YouTube is implementing a new rule requiring creators to disclose AI-manipulated content in their videos, targeting material that could be mistaken for real people, places, or events. This policy is designed to prevent misinformation, particularly with the use of realistic depictions. The requirement covers alterations like digitally changed faces, synthetic voices, manipulated footage of real locations or events. Creators will navigate a questionnaire during the upload process to ensure compliance. YouTube's initiative includes an altered content warning and plans to introduce a removal request process for affected individuals, rolling out these features across all devices soon. Now, I can confirm this because I have had to fill out this questionnaire several times now. As a YouTube partner, I don't know if they rolled it out a little bit early or if this just came out maybe post the time that they actually dropped it. But yeah, sure enough, I have to affirm that we have not used anything AI related to generative AI or manipulation for that kind of thing. I still haven't, the jury's still out on like, we have the AI write these little like blurbs. Does that count? Not really in the verbiage that they use specifically, but like we used to do the Level 2 podcast, and at the beginning and the end of Level 2 podcast, I did have an AI voice based off of a cartoon character that would say, "Welcome to the Level 2 podcast." And then at the end, it would say like, "You've been listening to the Level 2 podcast." And I would have like Sonic or something say that. And those were all AI voices. So I might need to go back and do a make good on those, because we certainly did.
I think this is a good move. I will agree with Maleficent, and this is a good move. I think in an era where people are already having a difficult time separating fact and fiction and all sorts of things, like to push people to fully disclose. I mean, we're already seeing. I mean, we've talked about this on Twig before. We're already seeing issues with AI in things being misappropriated, and I think this is an excellent move on their part to try to at least find, to start the ball rolling in such a way to like combat this a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It's intriguing to me, the like budge of the boulder of like, how far will this go? Will it snowball? Will there be anything like Zach King? I think about like the wickedly skilled editors like that do things that feel completely unbelievable. Are people going to be like looking at them with a skeptic's eye and be like, "You used AI for this"? And like, sort of like After Effects is not AI, but it's not AI. It's not what you're thinking of when you think of it. So it's going to be weird. It's interesting to think about like just effects and the way that we actually do work as like content creators. So I have no problem with ever disclosing. And so I fully believe in like, this is a good policy change, and this is something you can certainly do and should do. And I stand by it as being a good decision. I'm just curious about like, here's a great example. YouTube also implemented the family-friendly policy not too long ago, where they say, is this content made for children? And the answer to that question is more than likely no. Your content is not made for children, because they're looking for content made for children. And so they're not asking, is this appropriate for children? They're saying this content is for children. And so that was a big debate that went on in the YouTube days whenever that first dropped. And so I still see churches that have comments turned off because they have their videos flagged as for kids. And I have to tell them, your videos are not for children. It's not saying that your content is rated MA. It's saying that your YouTube, your account does not need to be linked to a YouTube Kids algorithm. And so it's curious to me when YouTube makes these kind of broad sweeping changes. Even if I agree they're good, I will bash YouTube Kids and the 2012 era of that app into the ground. It was a big mistake, and there were mistakes made. And so it's like, I totally agree with this decision. I'm so interested to see how YouTube as a platform, like as a people, what does Philly D do with this? Like, that's what I'm interested to see. Right. What are the content creators take this, and how do they spin it, work it, and make it affect their own like culture that they've created? I continue to also say that I think Google and YouTube have been my personal like beacons in the light of this AI debate. They have continued to take things slowly and to really put up boundaries and barriers. And I think they've done a really good job of a lot of those things. Have they had some like dips in the road? Of course. But I think compared to all of the other, big tech hashtag big tech company, I feel like they've done the most that I've covered anyway for Twig, and they keep kind of being on the forefront. And so I appreciate their takes on AI and being very hesitant about it and being very careful in all their decisions that they make. So it's good stuff. Good stuff out there. And yeah, as Perry said, the person's likeness is going to be the big one that they seem to keep harping on. It has to do with any part of likeness, of course, not just faces, but also voices. And then there's also the manipulation of IRL locations that is probably troubling for them, that they've also pinged. So it'll be curious. I'm definitely going to be keeping my finger on this one, because I want to know about this as a YouTube creator. What are they doing, and how is this impacting me? And do I need to do the backdated thing? Maleficent asked, did they backdate this expectation? I don't know. I might do it anyway, just as a make good, because I don't want to pull the wool over my audience's eyes. That's never my intention as an ethical creator, but it'll be curious. Very curious stuff. So I'll look forward to this ongoing conversation. But next, we're going to get into another bizarre situation that has been going on for the past week.
All right. So this story came from Trombone. Larian Studios, led by Baldur's Gate 3 director Sven Vinke, initially began work on DLC for the critically acclaimed RPG, which recently won another Game of the Year award. However, despite considering expansions and even the idea of Baldur's Gate 4, the studio decided to cancel these projects and move on to new endeavors. Binky expressed that the decision came from a desire to explore new ideas and challenges, especially since converting the D&D 5th edition system into a video game format was complex and limited the scope for innovation in combat and gameplay. The studio's focus now shifts to 2 planned games, which were expected to bring fresh excitement and creativity to the team. This pivot was met with enthusiasm from the team, highlighting a shared feeling that moving past Baldur's Gate 3 was the right direction. Larian Studios is also continuing to support Baldur's Gate 3 with new content like cross-platform mod support, but future developments for its characters will be overseen by Wizards of the Coast. Vinke hinted that their next project might be unexpected yet familiar to fans and could surpass Baldur's Gate 3 in scope. Yeah, this is like, I mean, if you've been listening to Twig over the last few weeks, you've known that we've been talking about the back and forth between Larian and Brain Not Braining, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, right? And so, like, this is almost not an unexpected decision by Larian. Like, I know the one that hurt people in a way, at least fans of the game, is the canceled DLC. That they were working on a DLC and that Binky came out and basically was like, the team just didn't enjoy making the DLC, so we decided not to do it. And like, on one hand, I absolutely support that decision. Like, for somebody to come out and say, you know what, like, there's all these other things that are weighing on us. We're trying to do this DLC for the game and we just don't have our heart into it. And so to say, you know what, we're just going to step back, we're not going to do it, I think is a smart move on their part. But again, on the other hand, totally heartbreaking for fans, right? Who absolutely love this game, would love to have more reasons to keep playing this game. So I think it's you know, it's such like one way or the other. There's so many good and bad things in this, but knowing what I know of the story, I would say I think Larian is making a wise decision to just be like, in a way, stepping back and washing their hands on it, to be like, hey, we've done what we've done. We've put out this game. We're super crazy proud of it. We're thrilled that you, the community, are enjoying it. It's now time for us to step back and do something else. And so I am desperately hoping with every fiber of my being that whatever this next project is, that video gamers will just rallying, you know, behind Larian and support their next endeavor. So, and Maleficent, that is a great question. So she has it in the chat. She says, it sounds like they are choosing between passion versus money. And in the end, that is better for the fans, even if it means no new content on this. And yes, I would say, now granted, I'm basing this off of what I'm reading, what I'm seeing, and just interviews that I watched a couple interviews with Swen today on YouTube and talking about this. And it does, I will say, it does seem like they are choosing the side of passion. And I wholly support that, to be able to acknowledge that, again, they did something awesome. They did something amazing with this game that I don't know if they have expected it. I don't know if the community expected it to blow up like it did. But it sounds like, from what Vinky said, that they want to carry that passion into this new project. And I'm all for it. I can't wait to hear what it is. And I hope, again, I'm hoping and praying that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro do not just throw Baldur's Gate 3 out with the bathwater.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see the follow-up. I will say, as far as passion versus money, I don't know if that's necessarily the issue as much as it is like the passion of the creators versus the passion of the fans. And people think they know what they want and think that they know what's best for a game, but it's going to be the creators of the game that know the best thing for it. And they know what they have and they know the story that they have. There's a great Rick Rubin quote that I'm not going to try and misquote right now, but essentially goes into that the best kind of creative work that we have is whenever we create for ourselves. And I have agreements and disagreements of that, but I think that's probably what this gets at. This is somebody that is wanting to pursue their own creative passions as a team, as a director, as a whoever that might be. And I think all around, as a creative myself, I support that. 2 big thumbs up on the decision to pursue things that are going to be the most edifying to your own creative passion. And exactly as Maleficent said, whether it's passion versus their fans' passion or passion versus money, in the end, when the creator chooses to pursue a creative integrity, that is whenever everybody wins. And I did see I didn't put it in this one, but there was a comment that Vinky made as far as like, don't go after Wizards of the Coast for this. Like this is an amicable end. Like you can disagree with some of the things that Wizards of the Coast does outside of Baldur's Gate 3 or post this decision, but he was like, this has nothing to do with them. Like, I'm not doing this because they're pressuring us or because they're not pressuring us or whatever. Like, it was nice of him to have said that, especially as they're under so much fire for AI controversies and staff controversies and everything else. So it was good to see that he at least thinks highly enough of them to like say like, don't harass them over this decision that we made for our creative endeavors. So it's good stuff. All right, next up, this is our final to the Discord. This one is submitted by Twyla. Metacritic has released their 14th annual game publisher rankings in 2024. So this is games that published games, or this is developers that, we'll start over. This is publishers that released games in 2023. As you know, or maybe you don't know, Metacritic takes scores from across the spectrum and combines them into one big meta. And so that is what the website does. That is the process that they go through. And apparently for the past 14 years, I have missed this, but thanks to Twyla for pointing it out to me. There is a thing called the annual game publisher rankings, where they put together based off of a myriad of factors, such as the average Metascore for all the games released in 2023, the percent of scored products with good reviews, which is a Metascore of at least 75, 3% of scored products with bad reviews, 49 or lower, and then 4 as a number of great titles, which is a Metascore of 90 or higher. And they also have like a spectrum of how many reviews it takes to get points, not get points, any of that kind of stuff. We're not going to go through all 46 publishers, but instead just look at the top 10 because I thought it was a neat thing to look at and to see how they change. If you'd like to find this full article, you can find it on Metacritic.com. It is, again, the 2024 game publisher rankings. If you're interested in this kind of thing, I certainly am. Some of them I'd heard of, some of them not so much, but we're just going to be going through the top 10, like I said, for this one. So number 10 was Thunderful, who released a game called Worldless last year. That was probably their most known game. It's not one that I really had in my circles, but pretty good stuff and pretty interesting that they climbed 15 rank scores since 2022. So good for them. I'm glad that they're climbing the ranks. I'm going to check out Worldless, especially since apparently it did pretty well, and maybe I need to know more about Thunderful. Number 9, Sega, who admittedly has been riding the laurels of Persona for years at this point, and they happened to release Persona 4 Golden last year, and that was the one that really probably set them above. Although they released 15 titles, so they released a lot of stuff that could have gotten them dragged down, but Persona and those laurels continue to hold them above water. Bethesda Softworks, number 8, had a great year last year with Hi-Fi Rush being the phenomenon that it was. They also, some of you may remember, I think we covered it on TWIG, that they did an enhanced edition of Quake 2. So that was a pretty big deal. And so Redfall took them back a couple of notches. They did pretty good with some of their other games. Number 7, Axis Games. This surprised me a lot because this is a weeb company for everybody out there that doesn't play visual novels. This is a major Nintendo Switch weeb company that comes out with all sorts of games that are visual novels. And their biggest one last year was Jack Gene, which I heard mixed takes on. But apparently, as far as Metacritic is concerned, it did very well. Some of you may recall that we played Inescapable. That would have been published by Axis Games. And I gave it a big old thumbs down. It was rough. But I was so excited for another Danganronpa-like, and Danganronpa it was not. Number 6, we have Nintendo, which actually climbed from last year, and I think we can all probably agree that was mostly due to Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom that climbed that one right on up, which regardless of what people say, clearly was a beloved and very, very good game. Number 5, Annapurna Interactive. They also climbed just a little bit. Their best game of last year would have been Cocoon. Hard disagree. I like Annapurna a lot, and I think they had a whole lot more come out last year than just Cocoon. I think Cocoon was a little overhyped. Storyteller was a fascinating concept that they came out with as far as the actual gameplay, the style, the way that you played it. Thirsty Suitors was one that certainly got a lot of attention from them last year. Number 4, Dangan Entertainment. Don't know them very well. Their best game, according to Metacritic, was The Last Spell. Number 3, it made me very happy to see Chorus Worldwide getting some love and some climb. Chorus Worldwide is, of course, often works with my favorite games out there, A Space for the Unbound, Coffee Talk, things like that. Work with those companies, and so I love to see them climbing the ranks. They were not even on the ranks last year, and then they wound up being number 3 this year. So kudos. That makes me feel good about A Space for the Unbound finally getting some love since it's been snubbed for every reward. Number 2, Raw Fury. Some of you may remember we played Cassette Beasts this past year. That was one that got them bumped right on up the ranks. And then some of you may remember Mayfly. Super loved the game American Arcadia. We played the first couple minutes of it on the demo here on stream. So those are 2 from them. And then number 1 of last year, the best game publisher according to the Metacritic scores was Capcom, who happened to re-release or remake Resident Evil 4, which was much beloved. We also played Ghost Trick Phantom Detective on our stream, played the full thing. They released plenty of games last year, Street Fighter 6. And granted, they had the bit of a stinker of Exoprimal, but pretty good stuff from them all around. So this was a fascinating list. I would encourage you to look through it if you care about game development or game companies or the publishing industry. Yeah, any thoughts on that one, Sneaky? I know that's a lot to look at.
Yeah, no, it was really cool to kind of see this list and kind of what ended up on it. So as you were talking, I was actually Googling some of the games and I'm like, ooh, World looks kind of interesting. And so does The Last Spell. I may have to check these out. So I think it would actually be really interesting. And hopefully I'll get a chance to do this in the next week or so, but I would actually like to go see this list and look at the games that these companies have put out as, sometimes you just get stuck in those, I don't know what to play gaming ruts. And this could be a way to find some really interesting games and just be like, hey, Capcom, #1 developer, what do they put out? Let's check out some of their games. Kind of a way to check out some new, some new games, some new developers, things like that. So
I'll always do a shout out.
List. I did not know this existed either. So
yeah, never heard of it. 14 years apparently, and I'm like, I've been missing out. Now I'm super curious to go back on some of the past years and see what's out there. But I will give a shout out to Backlogged, as I want to do. Follow me on Backlogged while you're checking it out. But if you go to games that you love, by whatever game, if you want to pick Last of Us or whatever, go to that game, and underneath the game title, they're going to have the developer and they're going to have the publisher, and you can click them and it will take you to all of the games released by that developer or publisher. So if you want to do exactly what Sneaky just said and check out the games made by people that you have a love and respect for, do that, because it's super cool. And that's a good way to be able to find out what games were actually released from this particular company, developer, publisher, any of those, fill in the blanks. So consider doing that. That's my little shout out for Backlogged. They don't pay me, but they should, because I love them so much and I actually pay them. I am a Patreon backer. So I'm a big fan of Backlogged and I want more friends there. So be my friend. All right. Next up, we have at my favorite segment of the show.
At this point in nerd history.
That's right. It's time for At This Point in Nerd History. We're going to go through everything that came out on this day, movies and games throughout time and space, March 26th, throughout time. Sneaky, take it away with what games came out on March 26th.
Goodness, there's a lot.
There's so many.
In 2021, you got Monster Hunter Rise, was released worldwide. You also had Prop Hunt. And as they put in the show notes here, it's just wild to think that Prop Hunt is now in Lego, in
crazy
Fortnite Lego.
How wild that would line up just like that.
Right. Just great timing. Also in 2021, you had a game that I absolutely enjoyed, It Takes Two. In 2019, you have the Danganronpa trilogy. In 2013, my favorite of the series, BioShock Infinite, was released. Oh, I love that game, and now I want to go play it again. In 2010, you had Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It was released in Europe for the DS. In 2007, you had Medal of Honor Vanguard. It was released in North America for the Wii. In 2004, you had Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes, that was released in Europe for the GameCube. And in 2020, or 22, no, good.
2004.
Gravy. I need more Dr. Pepper. That's just what this is coming down to. All right. In 2004, you had Dragon Ball Z Supersonic Warriors. And in 1998, you had Wario Land 2. In 1993, you had a couple of games. Hey Punk, Are You Tough Enough? And the Blue Brothers Jukebox Adventure.
Yeah. The Blues Brothers games still continue to amaze me. The like SNES into the N64 random Blues Brothers games that were all just absolutely terrible and just so incredibly random games that came out there. The licensed games are so funny. And then Tough Enough is a franchise that hasn't really gone anywhere, but has always kind of been in the like background of the fighting game franchise. Obviously, in 2019, I had to point out the Danganronpa trilogy, which I assume all of you have had 5 years to play through the 3 games. And so all of you, everyone, I'm speaking to everyone here, you've all played Danganronpa, Danganronpa 2, and Danganronpa V3. I'm just guessing that is because you've had 5 years. I mean, how could you not play those 3 games in the trilogy that they conveniently released 5 years ago? And if you haven't, then just go ahead and get on that now because it's in one package just for you, and you can do it. You can. You can. Movies that released throughout this time on March 26th. In 2010, we had a double feature that is quite hilarious, How to Train Your Dragon and Hot Tub Time Machine. 2 movies that I did not realize released on the same day, but it's always fun. And then the much less beloved Scooby-Doo film, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, released in 2004. So there we go. Those are the games and movies. Did any of those stand out for anybody in the chat? Let me know. Sneaky, I know you mentioned that BioShock Infinite was one that certainly stood out, and then the random prop hunt that stood out.
Yeah, and It Takes Two. So my kids and I played It Takes Two together, and oh my goodness, like I don't know if we spent more time laughing, crying, or yelling at each other. So, but it was such a blast to get to play that.
It's a great family game. I'm excited for whenever Nora can be old enough to play that game, and that'll be a real test of patience.
Yeah, as Perry says in the chat, How to Train Your Hot Tub is that was a great film right there. I love the How to Train Your Dragon series. I don't know why, like it just hits the right notes with me, but oh my goodness, do I love those movies.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. And they've made a little bit of a resurgence. I feel like they never really went all the way away, but I feel like they're coming back, especially with some memes and some fun stuff that's coming out there. So it's super fun. I love to see them coming back into the zeitgeist. But with that, we're going to end at this point in nerd history and move in to our next penultimate segment of the show. It's time for our upcoming releases. We used to do every single game, movie, TV show, all the stuff released in the next week. But instead now, the guest and I just pick 3 exciting things that we want to share and talk about. So we'll go back and forth. I'll start with my first one, and then Sneaky, you can go with your first, second, third. It should be great.
Good.
My first one is an indie game that we played a demo of for Demondays last year called Pepper Grinder. It is an action-packed pirate adventure starring the titular Pepper, a seafaring soul with a passion for prospecting, and Grinder, her super-powered drilling device. This game is super fun. It feels so good. If you like Metroidvania type games, if you like the kind of nonstop action puzzle 2D exploring games, this game was so much fun. I so enjoyed the gameplay. Support indie devs, get Pepper Grinder. It should be a lot of fun. If you like games that just feel good, and I guarantee you this game's going to cost like $15 maximum. So if you're looking for a good, short, easy, fun, compelling game, there you go. Pepper Grinder.
Nice, man. I miss Demon Days. We haven't had Demon Days in a while.
I've thought about doing to mornings, but yeah, I've thought about it. Just like with a rant, kind of like the walks where it's just like, if I have a morning that I don't have anything, doing that. But so far it's been too busy.
That'd be cool. Cool. All right. I think this Friday, Is It Cake? Season 3 premieres on Netflix. And again, purely I enjoy this show because I'm astounded by people who can make things, and because I can't. And so I actually enjoy watching Is It Cake because half the time I'm wrong. And so it's so much, and it's fun. It's one of those like throw it on in the background or like watch it with the family kind of stuff. And so I saw that was coming up and I was like, oh, sweet, cool. Give me something else to watch.
My favorite thing about that is every time that the new season comes on, there's this group of TikTok people that I follow that make fun of the show, where it's like a girls' day and they're all together and they maybe have had some mimosas and they're having a good time, and they do the Is It Cake challenge where they'll hold up like a perfect, like obviously real green apple, and then they'll try to make a cake that looks like a green apple, and it just looks awful, just truly awful. But they will react as if their minds are blown when the cake is cut, and they're like, no, and they're obviously feeling it and having a good time, and it
That's
cracks me
awesome.
up every single time. So when this show comes on, I always enjoy it because I see a resurgence of those memes popping back up. My second one is one that I still haven't started, but it sounds like you have. Perry has. Maybe you can convince me to finally get into this. But Netflix released a show called 3 Body Problem. I think they released it all at once, unless I'm mistaken.
They did.
And I've heard that is a mistake from the critics. They say that this should have been a Lost, where they release it 1 week at a time, and how much more fun that would have been. But they didn't. The synopsis is: a fateful decision in 1960s China echoes across space and time to a group of scientists in the present, forcing them to face humanity's greatest threat. A fairly innocuous description, doesn't give away literally anything. I know nothing about this show from that, but I do like journeys across space and time, so I'm on board. Can you sell me on this, Sneaky?
Okay, so I can sell you on this. So the first episode like hooked me. This was already sort of on my radar, and but the first episode, like the way they present it, they dangle enough stuff in front of you that you've got to figure out what's coming next, which is good. Like the way they breadcrumb things is actually really great. The other fun part of this is you get to see Wongers. Good old Wong from again Doctor Strange. He's in this and he has hair, and it's actually odd. It throws you off, but that is worth checking it out. Oh, that's right, Perspective. I saw that that the 2 Davids behind Game of Thrones made it, and so there is some of that behind it. But here's what's funny about this. So I watched it last night, and I could have kept going, forced myself to stop. Texted my brother. It was like, hey, I just watched it. The first episode. He texts me back and he goes, stop. Don't watch anymore. Read the books.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, I can't do that. And he's like, no. He's like, you have to. So the books, there's a trilogy, but all the books, I believe the author is Chinese. I didn't get a chance to dig into the books behind it, but they had to be translated. So I guess the books are a little tough to get into at first because there's a lot of Chinese names. There's a lot of translation things but once you get into the book, it kind of smooths out, and like you basically just start flying through it. And he said, my brother said he got to the end of the second book and his mind was blown. Like, he started thinking about everything that the book kind of focuses on. So I'll be honest, I don't know if I'm going to follow his advice. I definitely will be getting the books because he sold me on the books in the conversation we had for sure. So I will definitely get the books, but can I not watch the show and wait? I don't know.
We'll find.
Because I really want to know. But I will say this. At the end of the first episode, there is a kind of like, here is the up and coming synopsis of the show. Don't watch it.
Yeah, should have skipped that.
Skip it, because I think by the end of the first episode, you kind of know where the story's going to go, but they show you some things in kind of the up and coming that you're kind of like, man, I kind of wish I didn't know that. It doesn't give away a ton, but there's just a couple of crucial points where you're like, I would have probably enjoyed this without knowing that that's what's coming.
I feel that way about the synopsis anyway. I skip them as soon as they come up. So good advice.
Yeah. So that would be my advice. If you're going to watch it, I definitely check it out. Yeah, there's a lot of Game of Thrones actors in it. I know Liam Cunningham is in it, no relation, and a bunch of other people actually. So, but overall, pretty solid first episode. So definitely
Awesome.
check it out.
All right, you're number 2.
Hopefully, we're gonna try to squeeze this in the chaos of it being Easter weekend. But my kids really want to go see Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, so we watched the original Ghostbusters last week.
Oh, nice.
I finally introduced that to them. Was severely disappointed in their reaction. Yes,
I feel like
They
that's
didn't
one of
think
those
it was-
movies that's like I forget scenes, and it's like I'd really have to remember how old are my kids again, because these movies were very much made in a different time.
and that's why we're not watching the second one. We're gonna jump right to Afterlife.
That sounds good.
So I think we're going to try to watch that either Thursday or Friday and watch that one, and then hopefully go catch Frozen Empire. But I know it's not going to be that fantastic of a movie, but I still love my Ghostbusters. So
I've heard really mixed things. I don't feel like feel like people are all hating it. I think that there are people that do like just love a good time. Like the Whitman Revs, I saw both of them gave it a thumbs up. Now, we also disagree on a lot of shows, and so I may not enjoy it, but they enjoyed it. So it's very much like a thing that's like, what's the acronym that the internet loves? Your mileage may vary, right? It could go anywhere. And so I hope that it's a good experience as well. And I think no matter what, you'll have a relatively good time. My third is one that makes me so mad. I am in the anime scene. Literally, we talk about every single anime that is going to drop in the upcoming season here on TWIG. As soon as they announce the upcoming season, we talk about every single one of them. I read all of them. We spend so much time looking at these anime. And somehow, Hulu and Disney will find a way to hide anime from me. Nobody knew about Heavenly Delusion until I started talking about it, and then I still couldn't find it. I had to search for it every time I wanted a new episode. Disney just never released summertime rendering until they finally decided to, like 2 years later, and they dropped the entirety of Akira Toriyama's Sandland, 13 episodes. Nobody knew about it. I found out about it on TikTok. I love Toriyama's work. Toriyama just passed away. Disney and Hulu had an opportunity to be like, let's honor this creator and run an ad. Let's run one ad on this. And I had to find out about it through a random TikToker out there who was similarly hyped up as I am with rage and fury against Hulu and Disney for just making the silliest decisions. So, Sandland, a 13 fun-filled episode season of Sandland. The series is out there, and you should go and watch it. If you're not familiar with the series, it's one of the shorter manga series created by Akira Toriyama early on in his career. Came out forever ago and has now been revived in a sense. There's going to be a game coming out. There's been an OVA that's come out, and it revolves around basically think the opposite of Waterworld. What if Waterworld was the other way around and it was just sand, there was no water anywhere, and the humans and the demons have to partner up to try and find a legendary spring? It's a MacGuffin. It's a MacGuffin story. Who doesn't love a good MacGuffin story? And it's Akira Toriyama's art. It is CG art, so if you're uncomfortable with the CG style, then this one may rub you the wrong way, or it may be kind of like Trigun, Stampede, and blow your mind, because it's pretty good so far. So there you go. Sandland is my final recommendation. Go check it out because nobody told me about it, so I'm telling you.
Nice. And 2 bonuses to check out Sandland. The writing is probably better, and there's no Kevin Costner. So there you go. All right. My last one has nothing to do with anything media-wise, but for those of you that love sports ball, it is the opening week for baseball. It is my favorite time of the year. I love baseball. My Cincinnati Redlegs better do something this year. I mean, they did some cool stuff last year, but I'm really hoping for some good things this year. But I absolutely love baseball. And I will fully admit I'm a little odd when it comes to my baseball. I actually don't enjoy watching it. I love to listen to it. And I think that's because growing up, I always listened to baseball on the radio. And so I don't know if I just have that nostalgic, like, baseball is just amazing on the radio kind of thing. And so I don't even have to, it was like, I'll just turn it on as soon as the games start on my MLB app, and I will just listen to it all day long. So super excited that is baseball's back.
Well, that's great. That's fascinating. I had a buddy. I thought you were going to say I had a best friend in elementary school, middle school, high school. We grew up together, and he loved baseball so much that he carried around a baseball encyclopedia of scores from every single year, and he would tabulate people's like rankings and where they were and what they did and how they did for each season and all the things. He was positively bonkers for all of it and was obsessed with it. So I thought you were going to go that far, but just listening on the radio, not the craziest thing I've ever heard.
No, I will actually say, like, a guy I taught with, he was the high school's baseball coach. So that, kind of goes full circle. But at one lunch, just randomly, a group of us were hanging out. I don't even know how we got onto the topic, but he literally listed all the World Series winners from the very first World Series in order.
Amazing.
All the way up to that year. And it was just like, I mean, just off the top of his head. And I was just like, oh, dude, wow. That's
passion
incredible.
For sports. It blows me away. I respect it. I have awe. I revere it. If I were going to go to a sports ball game of some sort, it would either be soccer or baseball. Those are my two that I would prefer. I'd rather not go to a football game. They're a little boring and a little slow. But baseball's slow in a fun way. And soccer is... Yeah, soccer don't stop. So it's whichever one of those that I'm feeling. If I'm feeling, I've never been to a hockey game, so I can't weigh in on that.
Oh, hockey games are amazing.
Might be delightful. I do like the cold. If they're cold in there, then I'll wear short sleeves and enjoy myself. So that'll be wonderful. I'll have to check out a hockey game. I'll try and do that in the near future. Maybe Nora would like to go to a hockey game. I bet she'd have fun. But with that, we are going to get into our final segment of the show. Point. All right, it's time for our meme of the week. I do want to say, if you have any upcoming things that are coming out on your radar, let me know what they are in the chat or in the comment section afterwards, because I'd love to know what you're excited about that's coming out in the near future. But now we're going to check out a meme from Humar Wit Ill about Girl Scout cookies from Mr. Tim Long on Twitter. Conversation I just had. Me, 2 Thin Mints, please. Girl Scout, that'll be $10. Or you can get 4 boxes for $20. Me, gentle, that's not a savings. Girl Scout, not gentle. No one said it was. Me, 4 boxes would be great. So good stuff. I do like that this one got it spot on because, Thin Mints are, if I'm getting a Girl Scouts cookie, that's the one I'm going to get.
100%.
So I'm here for the answer of that, and I'm always here for a good goofy meme. And I feel like I can imagine Ryan Reynolds acting that one out. I feel like his cadence would work well for the pacing on that one.
Absolutely.
Yes. Unfortunately, we did not get Zandos to win. I am so sorry, Perry. I really liked Zandos and I wanted it to win, but I wasn't gonna, put my thumb on the scale and make that one win. And the way that you get your meme chosen for the meme of the week is by using our memes and goofs section over on our Discord. So again, if you haven't been in our Discord, that's where we're gonna go when this stream is over. And that is where you can post the memes, where you can post Twig news. It's where all the best things happen here at Checkpoint Church. So be sure to do that. But if you want a great meme, go check out Zando's meme. Whenever normally like looking at a meme, right? I give the little like chuckle on my phone, the little like, nice. Zando's made me cry laugh. And so that's how you know it's a good one. Like anytime I get a cry laugh out of a meme, that's going to be a good day. But with that, this has been Twig. So take it away, Sneaky.
All right, this has been Twig, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show delivered on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch each week, keeping your family connected to the world of nerd news. If you watched this far, then likely you enjoyed this one, so remember to give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app, smash that like button, and recommend this show to your favorite nerds.
With that, we're going to be thanking all of our subscribers that make this show possible here on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch. Thank you to Pumpy Tutors, The Toric, Dando Calrissian, Hman1009, Elias Raven, Wisen Lemur, J Money 634424, Trombone Dalek, Twyla27, Teeny Christina P, Strange Dunn, Nerd Pastor Nate, Perspective, Jate Live, X Mayfly, Bweesh, Mindful Marlena, Pineapple Pope IV, Sneaky Pig 633, Yakeem 4752, Sugar Haiku, Deacon Shannon LS, Maybe 30 Bats, and of course, every single one of you watching, you are also supporting this show. We just have an extra special shout out for those subs. We appreciate you so much. If you subscribe to this show, you help make it into more of a reality. You help our rev share, which we're being honest, that's helpful for what we do as well. But also you let us know that you're in our corner and you enjoy what we put out there. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Is there going to be Twig next week? Yes, indeed there will. Every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, here on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch. With that, folks, we're going to head over to the Discord. So I would encourage you to go over to our Discord, hop into the waiting room or into room 1. I will unlock it here in just a moment, and I look forward to hopefully hanging out with you there, but not before letting you know that we believe 3 things to be true about every single one of you out there, whether you believe in God, don't believe in God, go to church, don't go to church, hate God, hate church, no matter what, we believe them to be absolutely true about you. Number 1, that God loves you, like really, really loves you. Number 2, we love you. We want community with you. That's what we're doing here. And then number 3, that you, yes, you matter. You are a person of sacred worth. The world is a better place. Why? Because you are in it. Folks, with that, until the next time that I see you, whether it be right now over on Discord, or it'll be the same time, same place for Twig next week, or whether it just be for another stream or a YouTube video or a nerdy sermon or any of the things that we do, I look forward to seeing you then. Everybody say thank you to Sneaky Pigs. Thanks for being our guest. And
Hey, thanks for having me.
catch you next time.
All right. Go to Discord.